Hey, great afternoon, everybody. Great afternoon, everybody. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. Say hello as you're coming in the room. Happy Thursday to each and every one of you. Hope your day is off to an amazing start. I'm going to share this. As you're coming in the room, say hello. Hey, Aunt Jackie, how are you? I am just sharing this. Just happened. I don't know what just happened to me. Okay, there we are. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, can y'all hear me? For some reason, my camera has gone out and I'm not exactly sure. All right, there we go. So technology acts a little crazy sometimes. And so it acted a little strange on me. So I'm glad you could still hear me. Hopefully you can see me now. Bestie, can you see me now? Can you see me now? I'm actually nowhere near it. Okay. Everybody good before I start? This must be something good because we're having technical difficulties. Our first lunchtime empowerment talk of the year. But guess what? We are in here, and as long as we're in here, we are good to go. All right. And so I hope everyone has had an amazing day thus far. Listen, I am going to jump right into it. If you saw the flyer, you know that today's topic is expectations. Expectations. You know that expectations is kind of a touchy subject, but y'all know I like to give you definitions. So listen, the definition of expectation is two definitions. One of them is a strong belief that something will happen or be in the future. That's the first definition of expectations. A strong belief that something will happen or it will be in the future. The second definition of expectation is a belief that someone will or should achieve something. Here's the dynamic. Expectations can be good or bad. And many of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we've had both sides of that word expectations. I'm going to be true. Some of us have had both sides of this word expectation because some of us have actually had expectations and then they didn't come. Some of us have placed expectations on people and then they weren't who they said they were going to be. Some people have placed expectations and actually been able to feast off of and receive the benefit of what we were believing for. So listen, expectation is both good and bad. But here's the problem where I want to hone on today. Many of us, and this is going to get tight for a moment, many of us have placed expectations on people. Hey, sis. Hey, Crystal, how are you? Many of us have placed expectations on people who do not have the capacity to do what you're expecting. Let me say it again. I know you might not want to hear this. Many of us have placed expectations on people who don't have the capacity to do what we expected. I'll say it one more time. Many of us have placed expectations on people who do not have the capacity to do what we've expected. And I know you're probably saying, Dr. Vaughn, that's an excuse. No, that's not an excuse. Let me tell you why. Because sometimes some people are dealing with stuff that you have no clue what they're dealing with. And so we're expecting them to show up in certain manners that they don't have the ability to show up in. Case in point, I always use myself. I'm always transparent. Going through grief while balancing being a wife, going through grief while balancing a business, while balancing a ministry, while balancing different areas of my life, going through grief and then having to face some things that I never dealt with that showed up because of the grief, sometimes gave me an inability to show up the way I would normally show up. It's not that I did not want to show up in those ways, but sometimes you have to be honest with yourself that you cannot show up the way you really want to show up. But here's the other side to that. You have to be willing to tell people, I just can't show up like that for you right now. Come on. I really can't show up for you like that right now. The magnitude of what I'm dealing with right now, I cannot show up for you like that. Then there's the other side of it. You have to begin to extend grace to other people to take into consideration that they may have something going on. It may not be malicious that they haven't showed up. Come on, I had to face this myself. Why? Because I went through a lot of grief moments alone. I had an expectation that certain people would be there. Now listen, this is not giving anybody a pass because some people should have showed up. Some people used excuses and showed up in other places and just chose not to show up for me. That's fine. But I'm not talking about those people. I am talking about those individuals who I prayed and the Lord began to put a peace on me that they weren't being malicious when they didn't show up. They may have been dealing with something that they may never wanted to show. Because listen, everybody don't post their business on social media, y'all. Everybody don't tell everybody their business. Everybody don't put all their business on Front Street, don't want a pity party. Some people just go through well. I'm one of those people that just goes through well. And I had to face the fact that I had some expectations on some people who once I sat back and realized they didn't even have the capacity to pray themselves out of where they are. How could they show up for me? I can't get nobody. I had to realize that I was expecting certain people to show up for me that couldn't. I'm just saying. So when you say that, when you say, you got to look at it. Can these people call on me for everything? These people want me to pray them out of something that they could really just go to God for 5 minutes and he would do. If these people come to me for everything, how can I expect when I'm in the type of fire that I'm in? Because I ain't in no ordinary fire. Come on here. I'm not in no surface stuff. I'm not in no little minute stuff. The enemy is trying to take me out. The enemy is trying to make me forfeit it all. I'm not dealing with no now I lay me down to sleep stuff. I'm dealing with some heavy stuff. So how can I expect the people that call me for stuff that I don't even worry about to be able to pray me out of the space that I'm in? I know I love them. I know I call them sister. I know I call them friend. But the mere fact and the truth of the matter is they do not possess the capacity to be able to be what I need them to be in the midst of the storm that I'm in. We're talking about expectations, right? We're talking about expectations, right? We're talking about expectations. So you have to begin to sit with yourself. This is a self thing. You got to begin to sit with yourself and actually begin to evaluate, can this person actually be and do what I need them to do? And then sit back and be truthful. I didn't say what you're hoping for them to do. I said, can you really say that this person can be what you want them to be? Because here's the dynamic. Sit in it. I want you to sit in it for a moment. Think about how many times you weren't honest with that person about what you were going through, and they got angry because you didn't show up for them, but you never told them the weight of what you were going through. So they still had the expectation for you to be flowing up here, but you had dropped way down here. But because you never told them, because you were never honest with them that you were going through some stuff, they still had an expectation up here when you were struggling down here. Expectations, you guys. So I know some of y'all probably like, well, Dr. Vaughn, I thought you was going to come on here talking about I'm expecting God to do something. Yeah, I'm expecting God to do a lot of things. I'm expecting God to do a lot of things. But on top of that, I also have to realize that even while I'm expecting God to do a lot of things, I can't charge God foolishly when he don't do it if I ain't done what I was supposed to do. I'll say it again. I am expecting God for a lot this year. Oh, I got a lot I'm believing God for, and I know he's going to manifest it before this year is out. I know it. Ain't no doubt in my mind. But I also know while I'm expecting God to do something, God is also expecting me to do something. So, other side of expectation. So while we're expecting something of others, and we have to realize whether or not they have the capacity to be what it is we need them to be. Here's the flip side. There are certain things that we're not expecting from people that we should. We've been making excuses for people on the other side of it. It's a flip side to it. We've been making excuses for people instead of expecting them to level up. We've been making excuses for people instead of expecting them to do their part. We've been letting people get away with stuff instead of expecting them to mature and do what needs to be done. That's why I said expectations can be good and they can be bad. And this is only a lunchtime empowerment. I could talk. This is a long thing. I might do a part 2 next week. When we're talking about expectation, the expectations go like this. Because expectations come with a give and take. So while I'm expecting something from you, you are also expecting something from me. But can I really expect what I'm expecting from you if I know I'm not giving you what you're expecting from me? It's called mutual expectation. Mutual expectation. And something was going around a few months ago, a little thing that was saying, don't expect you from other people. I agree and I disagree with that. I agree and I disagree with that. Yes. Don't expect you from other people. Don't expect you from other people. I agree with that. Let me tell you, I had to read my notes. Let me tell you why. You are only you. God created you. And God gave you a certain measure. God gave you certain gifts. God gave you certain abilities. God gave you certain power, a certain level of anointing. God gave it to you. So let me tell you, and I can only use me. I can't use anybody else. So for me, I am a giver. So that part where it says, don't expect you, I can't expect people to give as much as I give because the heart of a giver was put inside of me. They may not have the heart of a giver. I'm trying to save y'all from some heartache. I'm trying to save y'all from some pain. I'm trying to save y'all from some agony. I have the heart of a giver. That is how God created Shavana. That is how God created Shavana. He gave me the mind to give. He gave me the heart to give. He gave me the spirit to give. I don't give to be seen. I give simply because that's who I am. But I used to get upset because I gave, and nobody ever gave to me. I used to get upset. My feelings were very, very hurt because I was giving, but it seemed like on my birthdays, nobody was giving to me. Except for, my daddy took care of me. I was a daddy's girl. Nobody took care of me. Nobody did nothing special for me. Nobody surprised me. Me and this earring having a fit. Nobody came to surprise me. Nobody put on a party for me. Nobody did nothing extra for me. Nobody all of a sudden just showed up and mailed me something as a surprise. But I was always shipping stuff out to people, just thinking of them and always just being there for them. But guess what I had to come and face? God made Shabana, Shabana. God made Melissa, Melissa. God made Janella, Janella. God made Bishop Paula, Bishop Paula. God made Octavia, Octavia. God made Debbie, Debbie. But God made Shabana, Shabana. So the magnitude of how my mind works when it comes to giving is just how God created me. So I had to embrace that and realize my expectation on other people was unrealistic because I was expecting them to be me. But they were who they were. And it doesn't mean that they meant any harm. Now, some people are selfish. Let me nip that in the bud, because I hear some of you. Some people are selfish. Some people are self-centered. Some people will just pull from you and 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 pull from you. And guess what? What I had to do was I had to pray for wisdom from God for how to handle those people. I had to ask for wisdom from God on how to handle those people. I had to ask for wisdom from God on how to handle those people. And now I embrace the fullness of who I am. I'm going to give when God unctions me to give. Why? Because if God placed it on my spirit, then God's going to give to me. God's going to give to me. I cannot be consumed by what somebody else does. So you have to reevaluate your expectations. Now, on the other side, there is a certain level that you should expect from people. You should expect people to respect you. You should expect people to be what they're supposed to be. You should expect people to treat you right. You should expect people who say they love you to support you. You should. You should. You absolutely should. And I expect if you use the word love and you say you love me, I expect that you will support me. And listen, support is not always tangible because sometimes your support is your prayer and your love. But now that God has given me this wisdom, I don't give to certain people who have taken advantage of my spirit of giving. Now I'll be there if they need, but I no longer just give just to give. Those days of being taken advantage of are over. Now I ask God for godly wisdom. And here's another thing. When we're talking about expectation, because I'm almost at my time. That's why I said part 2 might have to be next week. Because this expectation is serious. Because as we go into this year, I want us to go into this year in the posture to because listen, expectation, because here's the other part before I get off of here. Sometimes we have unrealistic expectation on ourselves. This is going to be part 2 next week because I feel it real heavy. Sometimes we have unrealistic expectation on ourselves. I told you expectations got all kind of legs to it. Sometimes we have unrealistic expectation on ourselves. What do you mean, Dr. Vaughn? Sometimes you're expecting yourself to produce or bounce back from something that you've never given yourself time to process. Case in point, I'm dealing with something right now that happened 9 years ago. It happened 9 years ago. I never dealt with it because I had the expectation on myself at that moment because I was the preacher. At that moment because I was the elder. Because at that moment I was the preacher's kid. At that moment I had so many levels and so many levels of expectation on me that I did not deal with what I need to deal with. I tucked it away because I felt that I had to be the strong one and I had to keep pushing. So I tucked it away and act like it never happened. 2021, that thing snuck up on me and hit me like a ton of bricks. One thing brought that whole thing back. One thing brought that whole thing back. So the unrealistic expectation I had on myself back then that I could just tuck it away and I was strong enough to just keep going without facing it came back. And now I have to face and deal with that which has now come back to me. But now I have to shift my expectation, that now my expectation is a level of grace extended on myself to take the time that I need, not just to see it, but to deal with it, heal from it, and be whole so that I don't no longer have the sting of what happened. So now my expectation has shifted, not that I just act like it, okay, I'm strong enough, okay, I can just knock it off. No, now my expectation is, Shavonna, deal with it, face it, walk through it, heal, be whole, so that the sting of it is no longer there. Expectation. How many of you have had an unrealistic level of expectation on yourself and have not allowed yourself? I know you the prophet. I know you the preacher. I know you the prophetess. I know you the wife. I know you the mother. I know you the sister. I know you're the intercessor. I know you're the midwife. I know you're all of that. But my question to each and every one of you, how many of you have placed an unrealistic expectation on yourself to be stronger than you had to be? Because sometimes you just need to admit, this is too much for me. I got to bring in some reinforcements. God, I'm coming to you first, and then I'm asking you for reinforcements. So, as we end the, it's always 20 minutes. This is my lunchtime. So part 2, we're going to be part 2 of expectation next week, because I want to dig into that some more. Because before we go into the rest of this year, beating ourselves up about stuff, I want you to really realize, have you placed an unrealistic expectation on yourself to be something that God never even expected you to be? He said, for when you are weak, then I am made strong. So who told you you had to be strong all the time? Expectations. So, this is our first, we came out the gate. This is our first lunchtime empowerment talk with Dr. Vaughn. This is our first one straight out the gate. And this is what God gave me, expectations. And so part 2, we will be finishing up expectations next week, because I believe the Lord has some more stuff for us. Because as we lay this foundation, it's like I told them before, it's not about resolutions. It's not about, all of stuff. It's about setting realistic goals for the betterment of oneself. Because before you can achieve all the rest of them other goals, you got to be better. Because if you jump into something else and you're not better, you can damage or forfeit or mess up what you're jumping into. So let's start with ourselves. I'm starting with me. I've been starting with me. My new year started back in November, and I've been tunneling through, asking God to show me. As I'm believing Him for some major stuff this year, I don't want to go into any of it messed up. So I challenge you, expectations. And so listen, I appreciate each and every one of you always for coming to hang out with me. Make sure next Tuesday, 1 p.m., you tell somebody, tune in. We only here for 15, 20 minutes, and looks like God is hitting us strong already. And so tell them to come and help hang out with us. I hope that you receive something. And listen, there is some new merchandise right down there on that website, www.ShavonnaWhitehead.com. We got mugs that say, I can, I will, watch me. We got mugs that say, motivated overcomers being restored and empowered. We got mugs that say, I am more now. We got tote bags. We got t-shirts. Listen, head on over there. Grab you something, because listen, this year is going to be amazing. And the empowerment journal, if you don't already have it, you can start your empowerment journey today. Head on over to the website, www.ShavonnaWhitehead.com. Grab your copy of I Am More Now. Listen, start journeying through your more. Start getting back to where you need to be and embrace all that God has for you. I'm super excited, as you can see, that this year is going to be absolutely amazing. And so guess what? I believe you're amazing. God believes you're amazing. And that's all that matters. So I'll see you back here next Tuesday, 1 p.m. for Lunchtime Empowerment Talks with Dr. Vaughn. Have an amazing day. Also, be sure you're subscribed to the website because we got some exciting things happening and they're already in the works for this year. I love you all. I appreciate you. Talk to you soon.